What's going on, gamers? It's Phil H here, and welcome to the first video in a 4-part series, all focused on vision in Dota 2. So to get into the terrain, how I do, you just go through your Heroes tab, into Global Items, and then go to Terrain, and you can demo terrain. So now you get all the benefits as if you were demoing a hero, but you can do it on the actual map itself. So here I'm just messing around with a few settings, I'm just changing up my bot, and I think I changed the music as well. I'll cut through all this. So most important things, you want to make sure your free spells are on, and this will immediately free up my TP so that I can TP to the bot room. So once I'm down there, I will then want to spawn in a enemy X in this case, and then there's a very important, it's technically a console command, but you can do it through chat, which is just, you'll see it load up here, is -give bots, and then you want to put a space, and then item underscore ward underscore observer. You need to put it in that particular order, otherwise the item won't spawn itself. And then as long as you've got free spells checked, that will also actually work on items. So it'll mean you effectively have infinite wards. So what I usually do when I'm doing drills like this is I'll just run Axe away, so he's out the way, and then every time I need a new ward placed, I'll just select him again, run him over, place it where I need it, and then run him away. So your bread and butter when it comes to supports and dewarding is going to be your sentries and your gems. So as of 7.30, they added a new active ability to the gem itself. I'm showing you here the old passive, which everybody's aware of, which will give you true sight in I believe it's a 900 radius. So I'm just demoing how long that is. You can see it's quite far. Just take that out and then I'll show you the active. So when you activate this and then click on the high ground itself, you'll see that it will spot everything up there, so plenty of time to clean up that ward as well. The way that most supports will be doing the job is that they'll be placing a sentry and then either spotting vision somehow, either with skills, or they'll place a sentry on the low ground and then popping us over on the high ground. Obviously, you only want to do it this way if you have some way to clear the high ground first, otherwise you're telling the enemy that you have a ward up there. Typically what I'll do is I'll drop a sentry on the low ground, use some sort of skill or item to clear the high ground, and then if it's clear when I first check, then I'll place a ward up there. Otherwise, if they've already warded, then I'll find a different place to ward, because more often than not, if you clear their vision, they're going to come back and clear it. So I'd rather them clear a sentry with a sentry rather than clear a ward with a sentry. So first up, in terms of neutrals, not a lot of people realize, since all of these skills were all changed up in 7.30, your Harpy Scout now has an active, it's technically a pseudo channel, so at the cost of mana per second, the Harpy Scout gets a flying move speed, gets flying vision rather. So that will allow you to very easily spot the high ground. If you look at the fog of war, like beyond the cliff, you'll actually see that there's a little bit of an extension beyond just the daytime vision. So you'll see that the Harpy Scout does actually get quite a bit more. You'll see that tree, the orange tree off to the top right, that lights up as well. So that means that I've actually got vision over there. So you can see it's quite a large radius around it, which is really, really good considering it's I think it's a level 2 creep, so you can get those super early on if you're playing Chen, for example. Next up is a Wildwing. So this one, not a lot of people know. They typically will use the tornado as a means to push lanes or farm camps, or generally trying to up your GPM in some sort of way, but you can also use a spell to spot the high ground. So all you need to do is just go and select it, pop it up on the high ground there, and as long as you've got some sort of way to reveal, which I do have from the sentry on the low ground, I can quite easily go and clear that out. So that's another really good way to use a really low level creep to max efficiency. And then sometimes, especially if you're playing Humble Dominator or heroes like Enchantress or Chen, the neutral spawns aren't the best for playing that sort of push objective strategy that you might want to be doing, but it's always good to know that you've got those options and your other creeps to do things that still impact the game, such as clearing vision. Next up, we have our Wildwing Ripper. Now this one's probably the most convoluted and complicated of the neutrals that I'm displaying here, just because this one does take a bit of finessing and getting used to in terms of the range of the spell. You'll see here that I mess it up slightly, so you do need to make sure that the radius of the spell is actually overlaid on the cliff to be able to get up there, and then you can quite easily go and clear that. So you can do things like if you've got either you or another support, or even a core, if they build a 4-staff, if they've got one available, or a blink, for example, you can push them up there to clear it, and then, you know, they can either push themselves down, or you can push them down, or you can do it to yourself and push yourself down, or Tumbler's Toy. You know, you've got lots of options in terms of items that will allow you to get up and down, especially when comboed or something like that. And then last of all, the Ancient Black Dragon. Not a lot of people realize because, well, it's not explicitly stated in the tooltip, but I select, I'm just looking over the other skills here, but the Fireball here, it will actually give vision of wherever you place a spell. So you can use this not only to push lanes, but you can also use this to check a cliff. So say you're doing a really aggressive push into enemy jungle and you want to clear some vision there, you could check maybe one of the safer cliffs that you know that you aren't going to want to deward. Or, if you're trying to get vision on, the high ground in their base, you can use that skill as well to spot if you don't have any other means to do so. So those are the most sort of important things to consider when you're playing these, neutral dominating heroes, whether that be, Chen, Enchantress, or your classics, but also even when you're playing like Lycan, Beastmaster, anybody that likes to build a Helm of the Dominator or Helm of the Overlord. These are creeps to consider when you want to play that vision game, or if you're playing a core that gets these items, the ways that you can help your supports play that vision game to, ultimately vision is what's going to win you the game most of the time. And if you can always be mindful about how you can use your skills and abilities, then that's the best thing to do. I'm also going to show here, so 4-staff, and then Hurricane Pike as well. 4-staff quintessential support item. Hurricane Pike is something that, even cores will sometimes get. So getting used to the skill shots involved and getting yourself onto the high ground is a really, really effective way. You start to get just a feel over time. You'll see that I'm messing it up slightly. Best thing to do is have a directional pathing hotkey. So if you go into your advanced hotkeys, you'll see a bind slot for directional pathing. What that means is that whenever you right click, you'll move directly in the direction that you're clicking, even if it's a high ground, for example. Using the regular AI, I would try to find the most optimal way to walk there. Whereas if you go directional pathing, you say take the shortest route, even if I collide with a cliff or whatever. So allowing to do that enables you to point yourself in the right direction to use, these skills, in this case, an item. In my other videos, I will show you skills where using this directional pathing hotkey can really help. So yeah, I'm just continuing to mess around, get a feel with it. Typically, I don't use the 4-staff as much in this sort of setting because typically if I'm looking to cliff myself in some sort of way, it's normally if I'm using a higher impact hero like a Snapfire, for example, where I can cookie myself onto the high ground and then use my Mortimer's Kisses from up there, from relative safety. But this is something to, really get used to if you're looking to up your, effectiveness, especially of these, sort of classic items. So I'm just going to shove another observer back up here, and then your other items here to consider. Hang on, let me just get rid of these. So, Wind Waker and Yules. So, Wind Waker is actually a really optimal item for this sort of stuff because you can actually check the cliff and then bounce back down. The issue with a Yules is that you don't actually get full vision when you use yourself next to it, whereas if I just pop the Wind Waker, I continue to right click and I can actually scout the high ground. So Wind Waker is not normally something you won't normally get it until quite late in the game, unless you're rushing it for a particular reason. Maybe you really need the dispel and the escape. I've had games where I played a Wind Ranger, for example, where I ended up, I was playing against a Night Stalker, so I just needed really good ways to escape the silence and continue to move, because I was getting shut down. So, items like that are really good. This is another one, which is a favorite of mine, is Meteor Hammer. I play a lot of heroes that really like to build Meteor Hammer just for raw push. These other ones were an experiment. I didn't actually realize that, and I always knew that Shiva's Guard provided flying vision, but I didn't realize you could use it in this way as well. But with the Which one am I going to use? I recorded this a couple of days ago, so I kind of should remember the order that I use it in. Yeah, so Shiva's Guard will provide flying vision. There are lots of things you can do with Blink as well, but just, you can pop it, you can actually spot the high ground. There's a reasonably long cooldown, but, if you've got a timing-based team where when ultimates are on cooldown, they want to play passive, and you've got the time to do so to make sure that your cooldown's going to be up again when you need it, then using Shiva's Guard like that, there's no issue like that at all, especially if you've got really high mana regen. So Meteor Hammer. So this will provide vision. So what you can do is you can cast it and then immediately cancel the channel. And then, I'm experimenting to see if I can get the full channel off and still deward. But what you can do as well, and then this is me messing around with the active of Wraith Pact as well. It's a relatively new item, so I haven't played with it too much just because I don't play cores that benefit too much, but there you go. So I just did it there as Meteor Hammer, then immediately cancel the channel, and then that gives me just enough time to finish off a ward that's on the high ground. So yeah, Meteor Hammer, really good, not just for pushing lanes, especially if you struggle with a hero that doesn't inherently have wave clear. That's why I really like Meteor Hammer, just because a lot of games that I play, the cores don't like to focus on wave clear like they should. So most of the time it falls on me to counter push, clear waves, make sure that we've got that momentum so that when we take a good team fight, we can actually capitalize on it and take objectives. But yeah, Meteor Hammer, really good for being able to clear high ground as well. See with Wraith Pact here, it is, a reasonably long cooldown at a minute long, but you can spawn it on the high ground and it will actually spot the ward for you. This can be a bit of a waste, but I mean, even if you've got situations like you're playing against an Undying who's putting a tombstone on the high ground and you have no quick way to counteract it or to spot vision so that you can clear it, don't be afraid to use a skill like this to spot the high ground, to get those things destroyed, to make sure that your team actually wins the team fight. Things like that can be really clutch, and not a lot of people will think to use it just because they don't know how it can be used. And that's what this video is all about, is giving players the ability to realize that they've got a tool that they can use in a particular setting, even if they don't use it. In the majority of games, there's going to be a niche case where they'll be like, oh yeah, I can do that. I forgot that that's an option that I have. And last but not least, it probably goes without saying, but Blink Dagger is your most reliable method of cliff walking in the game. You will find a lot of heroes will typically, especially if they think that a team fight's about to break out in an area near a cliff, they will blink themselves or push themselves onto the cliff so that they're ready for that blink initiation, and they've got clear vision all around if they don't have an observer there in the first place. But yeah, not much to say on Blink Dagger. Really good item. Most initiating supports will have it, so you can always use it to spot high ground. Yeah, I hope this video helped. Stay tuned for parts 2, 3, and 4, where I'll be going through all specific hero abilities that will allow you to get this sort of vision or cliff walk as well. Alright, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if it helped, and I'll see you in the next one.